Welcome to the 41st episode of Tokenizing Everything, our weekly interview series with thought leaders in the blockchain industry. Today's guests are Jeanine Feierfeil and Camilo Echeverri, co-founders at MetaGameHub DAO. It's a pleasure to have the two here today, but before we begin, I have to mention that all opinions are solely personal and do not reflect the opinion of Amazing Blocks or any other involved party. So guys, how are you?
Hey Nico, nice to be here. Thank you for having us. Great
Okay.
podcast.
Yeah, it's great. You're coming at the right time, right? NFTs, the metaverse, oracles, DAOs, that's all a lot of hot topics right now. And I think MGH DAO is definitely covering a lot of those. So let's start with a brief intro round of you guys where you just introduce yourselves and then we can dive deeper into the journey of MGH.
Awesome.
Okay.
So go ahead, John, if you want to start.
Okay. I thought we're doing ladies first, but it's okay.
Ladies first.
I'm Jeanne, or Jeanine, full name, I'm a multidisciplinary artist, creative, blockchain enthusiast. The first time I got introduced to Bitcoin, it was in West Africa, in Accra, by some really crazy people that I think at the time it was like $1 or something. It had gotten to $1. Like everyone's like, it's $1, you gotta get it, you gotta get it. So that's the first time I got introduced to the crypto space. I spent the last decade working with companies like UNICEF, Deutsche Bahn, working as a consultant in West Africa as well. Just I love being involved in projects where I could just be a creative problem solver. And until I really discovered blockchain, then all of a sudden everything else seems so much tinier. Apart from my music is always going to be a priority, but everything else in the space, I felt like it's not as optimized, it's not as efficient, it's not as future forward. So that's how I ended up in the blockchain space. Personally, my favorite thing about our project right now is the metaverse aspect. Even though we are dealing with a lot of stuff, but being able to be part of that space, it's really exciting for me.
Thank you, John. I'm Camilo. I'm the co-founder of MGH. My background is more of a financial background. I studied finance here in Frankfurt, and while I was studying, I always got to realize the huge amount of information asymmetries and inefficiencies that are in the market and in the financial markets specifically. So I did like a deep dive into Bitcoin in 2016. So as an investor, went through all the ups and downs during the bear market of 2018. And during that time where everybody was like not talking about it, I got to actually learn about the technology and like what the benefits of mutable, trustless technologies actually are. So starting 2020, like when the whole market started picking up steam with DeFi and like the whole thing of adding logic to actually transactions and the transfer of value, I really got into what could be done with blockchain, and that's why we actually decided to create MGH. So I don't know if you want, I can give you a little overview on what we do.
Sure. Go ahead. Once you're in the flow.
So yeah, what we want to do with MGH, we have a DAO, which is a decentralized autonomous organization. If we talk about DAO, I mean, there's a couple of concepts and acronyms that are going to be coming up. So to clarify what a DAO is, if we want to be on the same page, that for me, a DAO is a way of organizing people in a trustless way with a self-enforcing protocol. So we have the blockchain technology, which allows people to actually coordinate and organize, and then you can actually build on top of that structures, organizational structures that allow to actually have a company and work towards common goals. So the MGH DAO wants to actually curate and collaboratively govern metaverse related assets. And these metaverse related assets, since one of the main things that is really booming right now are virtual lands, that's one of the main things that we're approaching right now. So we want to allow the community to actually foster the development of virtual worlds by engaging with artists, with game developers, with different types of people that are involved here, and to get them all together to actually develop this whole ecosystem as a whole. So that's from a high level overview of what we do. However, this is something that is being done by different projects. I mean, we have DAOs such as Pleaser DAO that communitively govern NFTs, or Whale. They all kind of do the same thing, which is actually a very interesting concept of actually democratizing the access to capital and allowing people to actually manage that capital together. But we want to move sort of a step further into this, and it's we want to solve a problem that is affecting this market. And the problem is that pretty much the NFT market is very inefficient. One of the main things there is that it's very liquid. So it's actually very difficult to actually trade the NFTs that are currently in the market. And we want to really solve this by implementing and using technology to actually allow people to fairly value NFTs. But we'll get into that later. I don't really want to talk too much about it and not let you guys talk. So
Perfect. Thanks so much, Camilo, for giving this overview. A very exciting project. And so in regards to, just before we really dive into the entire metaverse space and MetaFi, the convergence of DeFi and the metaverse and all these other aspects, let's just take a step back quickly and generally talk about a bit more about your background and how you kind of went on this path of becoming co-founders of this amazing project. So let's start with you, Jean. From your perspective, how did you get interested in being a creator of art in that sense, and how was your journey that led to your let's say endeavors within the crypto space?
Well, in just being a creative, I've always been quite hyperactive. I mean, I think a lot of kids with ADHD are. I started writing music with 9, so I've always been into constructing, putting stuff together. And then more relevant to the blockchain space, I think it was an article that you wrote, actually, that really got me fired up. I think my first question was like, it almost felt like another door open. Like, I understood crypto, but a lot of people, not understood crypto, that's the wrong definition. I knew crypto existed. I knew that there's value. I knew about Bitcoin, I knew about Ethereum, and that's pretty much it. I knew about Bitcoin. I remember having my first wallet and losing a whole lot because your girl didn't keep it. Whatever. Point is, when I read about all the possibilities with blockchain, I understood the power that crypto is actually using, and that it's just such a tiny fraction of what's possible in the long run. So having that introduction to the blockchain space and understanding how art can then be decentralized and how that can protect me as an artist, it made me really want to explore the space more. And I was always thought, if you go to someone's house, right, you bring something of value. Like maybe you bring a wine bottle or a champagne bottle. So me, into the blockchain space, I looked at what's going on and try to figure out what I'm interested in, right? In the long term, of course, I have other projects that I'm also interested in. But to me, this was an opportunity not just to learn, but also contribute something that will allow different spaces to be connected in the metaverse space, because I think the adoption of the metaverse to the mainstream is at the cusp, right? Like it might feel far-fetched, but if I check my childhood, I've interacted with the metaverse in my own way. MySpace, Habbo Hotel, these are all like pre-metaverses that we kind of already engaged in. So finding things that I'm already familiar with, understanding the importance of giving back to community and creating a bridge in community is what this project for me, that's what it's about. And then I would love to use that knowledge to then also build different projects that are maybe more art centered. With MGH, artists will always have the possibility like to govern their art together, to create passive income, to provide liquidity. They can do all that stuff with each other. And I think it's bigger than just an artist. It's bigger than just creatives. It's an entire generation of people that need to rethink their relationship with finance, right? So providing these different solutions and them interconnecting to me, for me, to be able to build other projects, new projects that are very related to MGH, but also branch off more into my creative side. I think that's where my passion comes from and what really got me going with this.
Yeah, very, very amazing journey. And I think, right, you're definitely at the right time when it comes to converging art with technology, with everything that's been going on. So, and from your side, Camilo, right, and in regards to the crypto space in general, you mentioned that you started in 2016. Like, you know, people always describe a certain, you know, wow moment, a moment that really got them excited about the space. Was there this type of moment for you, or was it more of like a gradual process? How was your path to adopting crypto into your life, so to say?
I think it was more of a gradual process, because when I started investing in 2016, I had this mindset of, wow, Bitcoin is such a volatile asset, and how is it possible it goes up 20% in one day and then 20% down in the next day, and it's used by scammers and all of the things that like you get when you start hearing about it, right? Oh yeah, that magic internet money, right? So I was at the beginning kind of very skeptical about it, and I think that happens to many people as well. Of course, it has changed over the years. But then I started realizing, and I already mentioned this in the intro, is that due to everything is embedded in code in the crypto space. So every single transaction that happens, every single interaction can be actually be put in the code, and that will be the rules, so to say. So in that regard, you can add logic to those transactions and add logic to value. So I think that was like the wow moment for me. But I like, in this journey going down the rabbit hole, I've been impressed. I mean, you know how fast this space is. So like every 2 weeks I see something new and I'm like, wow, okay, this is crazy, right? I mean, you see it with everything. You see it with DeFi, you see it with the metaverse, you see it with NFTs, like the way they exploded in the last couple of years, and how the society actually evolves and actually gets one way or another in contact with crypto. It amazes me. I think it's just unbelievable. And I mean, it's technology, right? So technology is one of the things that has made societies prosper. And if there is a technology that makes things more efficiently, the probability for it to be adopted is way higher. And that's one thing that we're seeing here in crypto. Banks are starting to realize it. Like different types of companies know that there is an efficient way, like where the costs are lower and where there are less friction. So I think that's where everything is going. And so yeah, to answer your question, I almost have every month a wow moment with crypto.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that, right? You know, you would consider yourself kind of a DeFi Dagon, right? A DeFi degenerate, so to say. You know, as you're in this DeFi space, what would you kind of single out as the biggest benefit that DeFi will in general bring for humanity in that sense?
I think that one of the main things that DeFi will bring to humanity would be the democratization of access to capital, right? So if you have money, or if you really want to do something with your money, DeFi allows you to actually do it in a permissionless way, right? So you don't really need to ask if you say, okay, I have some couple of bucks that I put on the side and I want to do something with them, you don't really have to go to the bank and ask them, all right, guys, what can I do with it? How can I actually make some yield from this? So you can actually directly interact with these protocols, and that I think that's game changing in that regard. The thing is, now I think it's a little complicated to actually access some of these protocols, but as the technology evolves, I think it will be way easier, and people will be be able to click like on one button, and their money will be managed in an efficient way. But that will, it's everything is step by step. But
Yeah.
like permissionless aspect of allowing access to capital and to yield is like the key um, aspect for DeFi and for society.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's definitely one of the core benefits of DeFi. So yeah, thanks for this overview. And guys, don't think a DeFi digging is something positive, right? So it's usually someone that is really a DeFi expert. So let's dive into MGH DAO and kind of the process there. And I think just say I would like to ask you, Jean. As you're really involved in regards to the outreach strategy and getting MGH to the market and educating people in that field. So how has this journey so far been, right? How is it? Do people understand the metaverse, MetaFi, and what MGH is, or what would you describe as the biggest obstacles and also opportunities from that regard? And in regards to how do we basically make MGH mainstream?
I feel like most of the conversations that I have with people that are completely like foreign to the space, right? Because like I have friends, right? And they're asking me like, "You're always busy, you're always working. What are you doing?" I'm like, how do I explain it to them, right? To me, that's like a big thing. If I learned that the more comfortable I got with the language, breaking it down to them, the easier it was for me to go into these meetings and speak to executives and just present the idea, or even just colleagues that are in the industry that I've never met before that might have some ideas for me, right? The easier it got to speak to people that have no idea, it was easier to then also have the conversation with people that are in the space. I've spoken to some government officials, I've spoken to legends in the financial aspect, right? They've been there since the beginning of NASDAQ and stuff, and they're really enthusiastic about the blockchain space. But even they don't understand truly how to prepare themselves for it. The reason I say that is because most of the time, people that have a lot of room and are very flexible currently with the system that exists, it's very centralized, right? So they are trying to figure out how can it be decentralized but centralized for them? How can they monetize the technology? And the fact that you can't, it's kind of frustrating because it interrupts with the natural flow of things, and they don't understand how that is going to be valuable. So on that aspect, it really opened my eyes to how badly we need to decentralize so many systems. I know it will start slowly. First, we're gonna have centralized systems and then build decentralized systems on top of that so they interact with each other. But hopefully in the next 5 to 10 years, we'll see more standalone decentralized functions and systems and use cases explode all over the place. Like we need it. We don't just need it because, give us the freedom and we don't have to like ask anyone or get approval from the bank or all that good stuff, which somehow they're still gonna figure out how to do that, turn that centralized. But just as a society, we have been blessed with so much knowledge, especially in the technology sector, more than I would believe ever before. And blockchain is going to force a lot of people to actually access this information and turn that technology into something more beautiful. I want to see a society where we're more educated about the possibilities. What have people done before, and where can you take it now, right? So that's why when I have conversations about MGH, I try to not overthink it. I present MGH as what it is, and also ask questions about how do they feel about the blockchain space? Because you can usually categorize them in one or the other. There are people that are really excited about the future, and then there are others who are more like, okay, but how do I become king of this or queen of this? Like, how is this mine? You have really big corporations that are like global, and their head of technology is like, or someone that has the power to make key changes that will set them up for the next 20 years. They're like, yeah, we love what you're doing, but we're not there yet. I'm like, that's exactly how e-commerce loved websites, but the stores didn't start thinking about websites until they started losing, and then last year, a lot of them closed down and were forced, right? So evolution and adoption will come when the use cases become unavoidable. And that's why the metaverse space is very interesting, because it forces the evolution in a way that allows social interaction to introduce the idea and the functions and the possibilities subconsciously. And the NFT space is a big push for that. So when I go into the conversations, I do try to talk about NFTs as well, because metaverse NFTs, to me, are one of the most valuable NFTs that you can have, not excluding art or music or IP in general, that will always be important. But in the metaverse, these things can exist and have a function like properly, right? So if you really want to see what the future looks like in the blockchain space from someone that has been speaking to a lot of industry leaders, it's going to be for people like Camilo, the Deacons of the world. It is what it is. And it's really sad because I feel like a lot of people would benefit from it, but it's so hard for them to grasp the concept. They're not engaging themselves with the idea of what blockchain is. Like, it's difficult to understand why, but maybe, life is stressful enough without thinking about the future. But I have also spoken to some amazing, incredible people with amazing, incredible projects that are going to change the way governments operate. They're going to change the way the police operates. They're going to change the way food, hospitals, all that, these systems are going to be put in place. But then I'm no longer as so naive to not realize what happened the last time around when new invention came to play and some people were sleeping and other people were learning. So yeah, that's the short version.
Yeah, thanks so much, Ron, for this detailed overview. I think, making, these type of projects intuitive and accessible is a big challenge, but I think MGH is doing a great job in regards to, accelerating by releasing educational content and, articles, shows, and also being on podcasts like today. So it's really a great job that is done, I would say. In regards to the innovations that MGH brings to the table, right? Obviously, the Oracle that is being developed is something that's quite interesting to look at, as well as the NFT pools and the respective NPTs, the NFT pool tokens. So, Camilo, this may go to you from the technical side of things. Like, would you kind of, in regards to describing the entire life cycle of the oracles, the algorithm, and the pools, how would you describe it, in regards to it, like having it as an elevator pitch from that perspective? And going more into detail, what do you think will be the biggest challenges and also opportunities along this journey and way?
Yeah, sure. To explain how the whole process of the minting of the entities work and how we actually integrate the Oracle and all of those things, we need to know what the problem is in the NFT market. As I mentioned it before, it's mainly liquidity and the lack of valuation model. So you have all these different types of NFTs that don't really have a foundation on how to value them. And we teamed up actually with a team of very capable engineers from Colombia that will actually develop a valuation model for NFTs. We will look at different aspects, such as we will mainly focus on virtual lands. So we will look at how big those lands are, where are they located, how many times have they been traded, and then we'll build a model that will pretty much feed our smart contracts with a fair price. So if people want to actually take part of these pools, they want to do it for mainly two reasons. Either they don't have enough money to actually afford an NFT, so they just want to take part of the price development of those NFTs. So people will just pretty much put their money in those pools, which work as an index. So you have an index of different NFTs within this pool, and you will pretty much buy some synthetic tokens that replicate the value of the NFTs within the pool. So that's one type of interaction that you can have with those pools. And the second one is the interaction that NFT owners would have with the pools. So if you own an NFT that has a lot of value and you just wanna, it's sitting idle and you're not doing anything with it, you can come to MGH, you can put it in the pool, and you can reduce your exposure to the NFT through the NFT pool token. So since I mentioned it's an index, that index will pretty much, you will participate with the proportion of the NFT that you have within it. So that's to kind of explain how it works. And I mean, the thing is, and one of the challenges that are linked to that are pretty much the variables that are chosen on how to value those NFTs. So with virtual lands, it's actually fairly easy to put it that way, because you have like sort of the standard variables from the real estate market. So you have location, size, price, and stuff like that. But if we start valuing different types of NFTs, such as CryptoPunks, we have different variables in the game all of a sudden. So are people talking about them? Which characteristics have these NFTs? Do they have a hat? Do they have some glasses? And those things are kind of complicate the process of valuing that. But given that everything is on-chain, you are able to actually retrieve many of, or almost all of that information from the blockchain. So it's of course a challenge, but it can be overcome. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a great concept, right? To solve these obvious issues. And in regards to the Oracle itself, are you looking into Chainlink, API3 DIA? Which Oracle providers are you looking into from that respect? And how's the development process going?
Yeah, so the Oracle provider that we chose was Chainlink, since they have like the whole infrastructure for this. They have been in this space for a very long time. So we chose, and they can actually integrate with the different types of APIs. So we actually chose Chainlink for this, but we have also been exploring different options, which are kind of more decentralized, such as API3, and we will definitely start to work towards providing NFT data. I mean, as I explained, we have our NFT pools that will serve our users, but the idea is to actually provide NFT data for the whole blockchain space. So if people want to know what the fair value of an NFT is, they will come to us, and they will be able to retrieve that information in a decentralized way, to put it that way. So yeah, Chainlink would be, as I said, because of the infrastructure, and then we will explore different things such as API3 to further decentralize the way we provide NFT data to the world.
Okay, yeah, I think it's definitely much needed. Also quite interesting, right, in the future for asset managers that may utilize a solution like this. So yeah, I mean, MGH is definitely a very interesting project. No financial advice, of course, but definitely worth looking into. So to kind of evolve further along the journey of the podcast today, I would like to ask this week's special question from the Be in Crypto community, right? So they basically asked, how could the metaverse change our society? I mean, it's quite a broad question, So I'm not sure who wants to go first of you, but maybe Jean, you want to start with it, and then Camilo, you can kind of give some feedback on that regard.
I think blockchain is going to change society simply because innovators like us will not rest. Like Camilo already mentioned something really interesting. He said the data of what's going on with the NFTs, which means transparency. And one of the biggest things that a centralized society lacks is the transparency. So that's already going to be a big effect, right? And then it trickling down into the metaverse space, having, like, everyone sees what's going on with social media now, right? Having that manifest in the metaverse, which means access to events, access to information, but on a heightened level because it has a social aspect, it has the gaming aspect, it has the technology aspect. It's going to make people more interested in technology, more interested in blockchain. So I think the metaverse is going to play a very big role in accelerating adoption of blockchain in general in different aspects, which will then lead into transparency. So I love the effect that the metaverse is going to have on commerce, but then also in how people interact with technology and how that will, at the end of the day, affect all of us in one way or the other. I'm looking forward to the transparency.
Yeah, and to add into to what Jean said is, well, I mean, when we talk about the metaverse, it's actually a topic and a word, a buzzword, right? And pretty much I hear like, of course I work with it and we work in it, but you hear it all the time, right? And I think nobody really has like one definition of what the metaverse is. When you hear the word metaverse, you think, okay, this is an abstract thing, this is another world, it's a parallel life and stuff like that, but it's actually not like that. I think the way society is evolving, like Jean mentioned, is towards a more digitally driven life, right? And for me, the metaverse is like a new way of organizing this whole body for the digital age, right? So I mean, people will increasingly spend more time on the internet doing things that they like, being it watching movies, playing games, or whatever you could imagine. And there is an infrastructure to actually assure the coordination and of human society, right? And that is in this huge spectrum where you have like the digitization of everything, pretty much. So that I think it will definitely change the world dramatically. I mean, we had the internet, which changed, I mean, lots of things that how we interact. I mean, what would we do? We wouldn't be here without the internet, right? The transfer of information between users, like in a seamless way. Then you had blockchain coming with like the transfer of value in a trustless way. And now you have like the internet of assets coming on top of that with the metaverse, where you can actually solve like this need to replicate properties of the physical world, right? Like uniqueness, ownership, scarcity. Like you have all of these things that existed in the real world, but we didn't have the means to actually replicate them on the internet. And now through the metaverse, through blockchain, through NFTs, we're able to do that, right? And I think that's a key thing, because now that we can replicate and that we can have all these properties of the physical world in a digital native or digital only environment, that will completely change the way societies and people interact.
Yeah, and you kind of already laid the path for the last and final topic of the conversation, MetaFi, right? The convergence of the metaverse as well as the DeFi space, right? Why is it relevant? You know, mainly to our listeners, it's relevant because look, like everyone is always trying to integrate real world assets into DeFi, right? I mean, at Amazing Blocks, obviously we also do this, and it can be quite challenging, and hence it's much more straightforward to integrate assets such as an NFT, right, into DeFi, and rather than just having to go through the regulatory struggle with other assets. So when we look at, you know, MetaFi, one of the biggest assets there that can be leveraged would be probably lands, right? You already mentioned it, I think both so far. So in regards to the respective land curation, which obviously MGH is also aiming to do, from the perspective of what you can do with such a land, right, which is basically like a digital form of real estate, what would you highlight as kind of the 3-4 main monetization opportunities with virtual real estate? I think I'm not sure who wants to take this question, but
sure. I think there are a couple of aspects there. I mean, if we talk about virtual land, you can structure it in whichever way you want. So you can, for instance, have a museum and then charge like the entry for it. You can have an art gallery and charge the entry for it. You can create a game and you can monetize like the whole interaction of the players with the game, with the whole in-game items, and then make money. I mean, generate revenue streams from that. But if we talk about the land itself, you could actually take the land and use it as collateral to actually pay your mortgage or to actually get some liquidity for something else. Now, and that would be like the main things that I would highlight from how you can generate value from virtual worlds. But as I said, since you have a piece of land, you can pretty much do whatever you want with it. And I mean, the possibilities are unlimited in that regard, right?
yeah,
What I'm
definitely.
really excited about before like we go on to the next one in the metaverse space is the event space. As an artist, I'm always looking for ways to like connect, but I am an introvert. I am socially awkward. Like you can't take me anywhere. The internet is a blessing. I can interact with people on the safe side of the world, and that's my house. Like I don't have to leave, you know? So being able to meet everyone that listens to my music from all over the world, being able to have events that are international without ever having to get on a flight, being able to build replicas of those spaces in the metaverse, like having merch there, having like if just a series of things that you would have in real life, right? But then you could have it in the metaverse space that would tie you together forever, making those memories. I want to know what it feels like. It's like there are a lot of things that can be said, but I don't think any of us will truly understand how impactful and how beautiful it is until we have done a couple, right? It's like hanging out with your friends. You know, yeah, Friday you guys are gonna hang out, but you don't know what exactly is gonna happen. Like you don't know, but there's gonna be laughs. There's gonna be really good memories. It's gonna be a conversation that is gonna shift your mind. And I think having that, being able to do that, especially with the visa situation, right? Because we are living in a centralized society. Everyone needs a visa to travel. Then you have now the corona situation going on. Then you have to figure out, like a budget. If Tame Impala or another artist is performing in Australia and that's the last show, I can't go. I'm not getting on a flight for 20 hours. But now you could literally be like, oh, this is what's happening next week. I mean, of course, make sure you get your ticket early, but it will no longer be about overly exhausting your physical presence anywhere. So I think the events, like there's a lot of stuff you can do in the metaverse, e-commerce, etc. But like the event development is going to be really interesting to watch happen.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a crucial point. But yeah, you want to say something, Camilo?
No, yeah, I mean it's actually, as I said, the possibilities are really unlimited. And given that we have this common playing ground with the blockchain technology, that you can really prove the ownership of the assets within this ecosystem, you can do whatever you want with it. Like, I mean, it's really amazing. All the things that you see, like I always get amazed by like all the projects that are working in the metaverse. For instance, I saw yesterday one, they have an architecture boutique for metaverse related projects. So you go to them, you tell them I want this and that, and they will do the whole architectural plan for your business, for your land and stuff like that. So as I said, the possibilities are unlimited, and that's why I think there's huge upside potential in that sense.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, once mainstream adoption comes for MetaFi and kind of generally digital assets, right? Once people realize that the value of those is so significant, and when we also combine it with IP and data and all these other valuable assets, it's going to be a very auspicious future, I would say, for the entire crypto space. So coming to the end of today's conversation, I have one last question, right, that I always ask my guests. And I think this question, it's definitely clear that both of you, it would be good to have an answer. So basically the question is, where do you see blockchain in 10 years from now? So maybe Jean, you want to go first.
Blockchain 10 years from now, I think we all know I'm the radical one, right? Come on, when it comes to like public speaking, but I think it's gonna force governments to change the way they treat their people. Not speaking too much on that. I think the health sector is gonna have a really big impact as well, but it will start with government. It will start with how we elect our officials. It will start with accountability and transparency. It's going to be less easy to lie. I'm sure people are going to be creative regardless, whatever society we live in. But I do see it, the shift, that in between where the transition happens, those years, it's going to shake up a lot of the traditional sectors, and we're going to see a lot of cobwebs and rats fall out because they will be displaced. And it's gonna, I feel like it's gonna make people more enthusiastic and optimistic about technology. So 10 years from now, a better society.
And the blockchain space in 10 years from now, I see like two scenarios, or either it gets adopted in like almost every single sector, which would be awesome, and that's like a very utopic view. It's possible. I don't know how probable it is. I really hope that it really gets that it abolishes all these inefficiencies and like game theoretical problems that we have in this world, like in politics and banking, insurance, in the healthcare industry. I mean, you could also with blockchain at the end of the day, because you have this trustless aspect where you don't really need to trust middlemen, and that's one scenario that I see. And in that sense, people will not even know what blockchain is, so it will just be part of your life. So you will have your app for healthcare, and you will have your app for banking, and everything will be on a blockchain, but you will not even realize it. I think that would be like the most utopic thought, and I think it's, as I said, one of the possible scenarios. Or the second scenario would be that it turns into a very niche market of nerds that really dream about all of these things that can be changed, and just stays there in that like little bubble. I hope it doesn't go that way, but it's also a probability. But I mean, the way I see everything developing, and mainly through NFTs, I have to be honest, like with Visa buying a CryptoPunk, you see that there is a cultural aspect that is being introduced here, and cultures and societies are very powerful, and I think that could be the path of really mass adoption. And there's one point where there's like no turning back, right? So yeah, but those are like the two scenarios I see.
Definitely, I think it's going to be very interesting to follow this path of further adopting blockchain, and yeah, I'm really excited to what's ahead. So thanks guys so much for being on the show today. It was great speaking with you about such a very pressing topic within the entire crypto space, and yeah, it was great to have you guys, and hope you have a great day.
You too, Nicolas. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us, Nicolas. It was fun.
Sure. And to our listeners, as always, if you have any questions in regards to MGH, the metaverse in general, and MetaFi, you can definitely reach out to my guests. And on the other hand, if you have any further questions in regards to blockchain or tokenization, you can reach out to me. Thank you guys, and see you soon. Bye bye.